Welcome to On the Table, the daily breakfast show to jumpstart your day and fill you with everything you will need, from news to robust discussion, and of course, little tidbits to make life much easier. We are your hosts, Tamisha Belty.
And I'm Ashley Sargent. Join us as we speak to the political scientist Deveron Bruce as he examines the political climate in Barbados. We also hear from local designer Raj Paul, and we have a demonstration from fitness trainer Latoya McDowell.
Joining us for this segment of What's Brewing is political scientist Deveron Bruce. Deveron, welcome to On the Table.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's really a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. We're going to get straight into the meat of the matter. There has been a number of changes in terms of the Barbados Labour Party, whereby recently we have seen the announcement that candidates such as that of Philip West, John King, as well as the candidate for St. Michael North, Ronald Topping, who has held that seat for the past 27 years, that they will not be seeking re-election. What are your thoughts on this development, first and foremost?
Well, thank you again for having me. And I think it's a very important question to ask, particularly given what we would assume is an upcoming election within the next couple of months or year. And my thoughts on that is that, to be fair, it's not particularly surprising that a political party would want to have some level of succession planning for the immediate as well as the future. And the assumption I assume would have been in the case of Toppin, that he's an individual who has represented a constituency for, as you said, 27 years. And quite frankly, there may not be much longevity for a Toppin going forward. And it's really part of the succession planning coming forward that we're seeing within the St. Michael North constituency. Now, the individual that has replaced him, ironically enough, has been on the ground, I've been told, and certainly is not unfamiliar within that constituency as well. So it's going to be an interesting matchup coming forward. I saw someone say, for instance, that Ishmael is a young individual, but interestingly enough, he's in his mid-50s, but we won't get into that. So it's very interesting to see that, succession-wise, you still have an individual who longevity may not be their strong suit going forward, given the age categories that they're in, for instance. Regarding St. Philip West with Senator Kay McConney, that too is also an interesting lineup. You have a first-time MP, John King, who is not an elderly man, who is an individual certainly who would have longevity going forward based on age, for instance, born out of politics. And that is quite unusual because we know generally that politicians tend to want to stay around. We know the increments and the benefits that happen regarding pensions, for instance, and the fact that persons come to office to make a difference. And you would certainly expect them that, or you would expect rather, that they would stay for quite some time. So it's interesting to see Kay McConney joining the force, so to speak, from the representative aspect as opposed to the ministerial. I'm told that she is a lady of St. Philip, so to speak, and she has some family and grounding in St. Philip. But we really have to consider that the Democrat Labour Party has had what we would consider pretty good success in St. Philip over the years. They've lost all of these seats, as we know, in the last election, but St. Philip turf is certainly Democratic Labour Party turf, and I believe she would have quite a difficult job being elected within that constituency.
Okay, and in terms of Davidson Ishmael in the constituency of St. Michael North, that particular constituency has been BLP territory for the past 27 years, as we mentioned before. Do you think that he's going to be able to retain that seat in the next general election?
Well, thank you for that question. And from the offset, I would say things may very well be favorable for him, given the fact, as you mentioned, it's a seat that the Barbados Labour Party has held for 27 years. But we have to begin to ask the question whether or not that was a vote for the Barbados Labour Party or was it a vote for Ronald Topping? Because we understand certainly that person's vote party, but if you have the right grounding within the constituency, the right personality, you can bring along several votes that are personal votes as opposed to party votes. And despite the fact he might have had the seat for 27 years, you must remember in 2008 and 2013 with Francis de Pisa, Francis de Pisa came within inches of removing Ronald Topping. So it's not really, I would say, numerically a seat that is extremely favorable to Barbados Labour Party. So we would definitely see the candidate from the Democratic Labour Party, I believe, would be Ricky Harrison, certainly having some influence and some possibility really of taking the seat from the Barbados Labour Party, but we will have to see as time develops.
And finally, Deveron, in terms of the issues of the day, what do you think are some of them that will determine how Barbadians vote in the next general election?
Well, fundamentally, I would have to say the COVID circumstance is one that will certainly determine several things. So we know how COVID impacts on the economy, but in addition to that, or with the exclusion of the economy, we can see that the government has not been handling the COVID situation in a very efficient manner. We've had a spike within our country now from August. It is it's November now, really, and it's still heading in the wrong direction for a disease that lasts for 2 weeks. So we have a situation where clearly something is not working, and there seems to be a refusal on the government's part to recognize that it's not working despite the facts and changing the direction. As someone said recently, you can't have an economic solution to a health problem, no different from you having a health solution for economic problems. So the government really needs to take the COVID situation seriously, given the fact that it has implications on several things and several aspects of Barbadian life. So COVID will definitely be one of the issues. Issues such as the economy is always, unemployment definitely, and the more colloquial issues, housing, crime, those things based on where you are and where you're located within a constituency. But I think the overarching ones will definitely be the COVID response as well as the economy.
And what about the cost of living? I didn't hear you mention that one.
Well, yes, definitely the cost of living is always top of the list when it comes to these aspects. And we know that the cost of living over the last couple of years have gone through the roof. I've seen some estimates sometimes pointing towards a 20% increase in the last couple of years. So cost of living is definitely going to be one of those issues, given employment is so high. There are many persons who are unemployed, many persons who are underemployed. And remember, we're coming out of an economic crisis as well, too, because remember, the Barbados Labour Party won the government because of an economic problem that we're having. I know it's just been exacerbated further. So the credibility of this government may very well now be under threat, given the fact that they've really argued and put forward a big game, but have not been able to deliver. And you will have to ask now whether people are going to be forgiven or whether or not they will retaliate or repudiate them, I would say, going forward. So definitely cost of living is one of those issues as well.
Thank you, Deveron, for giving us that insight. We now hear from local designer Raj Paul in this segment of Buttering Your Bread.
Prices to be lower, fam. I don't know when you're done. You always want prices to be lower. These prices that are rising got signed, they happening from some root. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's whether it's genuine or not is up for debate. But let's say it was genuine, then they're dealing with prices that they gotta pay, that they gotta pass on to the consumer, right? That's us. I would say this, look. I would use it as an opportunity to make better gear. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, if the cost of these things is rising in such a way that is impeding on your bottom line, I just meant things that got greater value. That's what I would do, because you can't. What can you do about those prices? I mean, there are things you may be able to do, like buy elsewhere, right? Like buy from overseas, like buy in bulk. Like there's various solutions that you can come up with that could lower your prices. So if you could do that, then do that. one of the things that you could do though is work with prices as they are and create the kind of items that you could price at a higher price point than you currently do. That's one solution. That solution obviously entails some other things, which is like you convincing people to that's what I should pay for it, right? That has something to do with, I should say, the value, which can include quality. Is the value of it such that I feel I could spend that on it? I may want to, I may not be able to. That's another factor. So there's things that you have to consider. The fact of the matter is that it's a market for everything. It seems like regardless of things as they go, even though the size of those markets fluctuate, those markets seem to still always exist. You know, even during a wartime, which you think like there's no market for luxury, there's still a market for luxury. You could believe that? During a war, the people who win in are the people who got like superpowers and things. They still do luxury things. You know what I mean? Automobiles still sell, you know, cars still move, you know, things happen, you know what I'm saying? So even in our situation right now with downturns and whatever, you know, I'm saying the conditions are such that everything still happens. The size of those markets might change, but whatever it is that you feel your thing is geared towards, that's what you should go with, B. If you try to do something else that's not truly you, I don't know, man. One or two things may happen, I think. I don't think the third. One or two things may happen. You may become successful and don't enjoy it. Or you just didn't enjoy it at all. And don't become successful.
Thank you, Rajpal. It is always interesting to hear how entrepreneurs are navigating through these challenging economic times. We now have a demonstration from fitness trainer Latoya Matt-Dowell, and these are some tips that you can try in the comfort of your home. Thank you so much, Latoya. I will definitely be trying some of these tips at home. Ashley, will you be trying some of these?
Most definitely.
I just find it so interesting how workouts can be made easy. You know, it only took COVID to get us to this point, but I'm glad that we can do some of these exercises at home because some people have been very concerned about the weight gain that they have experienced during the pandemic.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of On the Table. Be sure to join us for the next episode where we will bring more news to you, more robust discussion, and most definitely more tips for you to try at home. I am Tamisha Delty.
And I am Ashley Sargent.
Thank you so much.